Circulations from CN.
Morning. Little gap ups everywhere. Run the market. Nice momentum. I know, dude. Hood's so annoying. Super, super annoying. I literally bought it yesterday, 49.60s. I didn't even have a big position, and I stopped out. And I got stopped out at the effing bottom. Morning, Ada. Good morning, Prath. Good morning, Noah, Justin, Pasquat, Prath. You guys are early risers. Trump trade announcement with the UK will be limited in scope, heavy on future commitments, and leave the 10% existing universal tariffs in place. Don't tell me that was the news. Yeah, I saw that. HIMS is basically to almost where it closed yesterday. Market with a little bit of a gap up and a pullback here. Nothing crazy. I was looking at Bitcoin COT charts yesterday. I didn't realize Bitcoin was actually shorted right now. That's interesting. Morning, Takeshi. Yeah, Pan W. My CrowdStrike came down quite a bit yesterday too. Yeah, Pan W looks fine. In my opinion, they're one of the no, QBTS is trash. I mean, QBTS good so far. This name's hot garbage. Earnings. Up on earnings. $15 million. Let's see. Net loss of 2 cents per share versus 5 cents. They post a revenue of $15 million versus 10.5. Jeez. What about Invex? I know you're just joking, right? I'm not even going to look at that anymore, dude. Come on. Yeah, app better. App is nicely above the 200 and the 50. I don't buy dips like that on Google. The reaction was huge, but I don't just randomly buy dips in stocks that are getting smoked. You're basically just guessing at some point. Rocket Lab's in a good sector, I believe. They're Rocket Lab's aerospace and defense, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Like a 30% average annual return. What's realistic? Okay, so first of all, you have to just avoid big losses, and you have to make sure you're sizing properly, and you have to make sure you're using progressive exposure. But if you just did 6% per month compounded, you would do 100% per year. So, like 2% per month, 3% per month compounded would get you well past 30%. Literally 2% per month compounded would get you there. So yeah, it's absolutely doable. Yeah, what do I think of Rocket Lab? It's fine. I mean, they've got earnings and sales, so that's good. Their chart found support nicely on a rising 200. Maybe over $24 can be pretty good. Don't know if I should love them or hate them, but I don't know that it's one of my, favorite 8 to 10 names in the market. Rocket Lab with earnings tonight. Let's take a look. They sure do. So you just wait for the earnings reaction, right? It doesn't really matter what I think about Rocket Lab. It matters what institutions are going to do with it after they post earnings. Yeah, I see Tesla rising a bit, but it's up $3. It's up $3 right now, and it's still below the 200. Below the 200, I'm all over it. Below the 200, and it looks pretty fantastic in my opinion. No one is talking about a 52-week high on SPY. I'm sorry, dude. That makes no sense. Black Cat, what are you even talking about, man? There isn't a 52-week high on the SPY. Dole event, great question. And I would avoid trading the way I traded because it's not the same environment. So when I first started trading, how did you trade when you grew your account fastest? Would you recommend smaller accounts trade the same way as yourself? No, I wouldn't. The way I would tell anybody and teach anybody to trade right now is the way I'm trading currently, because it's the right way to trade, in my opinion. It keeps you out of trouble when you're not trading well. You're always working to get all your money. You're always working to get all your money invested into the market, and it's keeping you out of trouble when the market's not acting well. On the flip side of that, you could also learn to short too, so your equity curve stays pretty flat, even when you've got some long positions that aren't working for you. But I would not recommend anybody scalp the way I did back in 2020 and 2021. That requires a really, really specific environment with sympathy plays flying left and right. So 2020, everything was booming, and no dip was a bad dip. So I would never tell anybody to trade like that personally. It's like the most dangerous way to trade, because I was effectively using all my buying power, like for the first, $200,000-300,000 that I made, just scalping the hell out of the market, taking massive positions. Definitely not recommended. In 2020 and 2021, I was long only. Well, I don't know why anybody would want to be short that market or at any point when things were just going up 30 to 100% every day in small cap land. Yeah, 2022, there was definitely some adversity, but that was because I was long only and I didn't know how to short. So, but then I learned to short, and then I started studying from some people who had been around in the market for 20 plus years. The Minervinis of the world. Yeah, the problem with Melly is it's got a wide spread. And so getting situated in this thing's really difficult, but really nice reaction to earnings. AppLovin's got this little neckline that I'd like to see it deal with. But if this thing can get out over 350s, I think it's pretty interesting. Yeah, 5130 is a level I'm watching on Hood. Needs to get going over 5130. It's obviously there, but yeah, if it can hold on to 51s, then it looks pretty damn good to me. We'll see. I don't know if the market's going to sell off right at the open because of the gap up. So just kind of hang on the sidelines for the first 5 minutes. Yeah, Uber looks great. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I would like to get some more Uber as well. Yeah, I stopped out of Nvidia at $115. I don't know if it's about brain cells or not, Takeshi. It depends. If you have no exposure to the long side already, then it could be a little bit of chasing. But if you already have like 3 or 4 longs and you're working behind some traction, and you just try one more today, I don't hate it. I saw Dave Jack. Looks awesome. I didn't mind the Uber reaction. It was down like 1.5%. Nothing crazy at all. Why did I try Hood? Because I thought over a prior day high was a good place to take a starter. And it obviously was, but I just stopped myself out at low a day before the damn thing turned around. But yeah, Takeshi, if you've got like a long or 2 or 3 and they're working for you already, and you're working behind a little bit of traction, it depends what you're trying to buy today, right? If you like Hood, over 5130, I think that looks pretty interesting. If you're just like looking for an add-on on something like Spotify, maybe, I wouldn't get too aggressive on chasing, anything that's gapped up too crazy. Maybe AppLovin can handle, 350 well. Maybe KGC and gold turns around and KGC has continuation over 16. So yeah, I'm not sure. Depends what you're buying. think that's the more important part. Yeah, I got Hood. Very annoying. But 5130 is a spot that I'm watching. Not really trying to let the name go without me, but yeah. I mean, Carvana's impressive. Almost makes me feel like this thing's going back to a new all-time high at some point. Is gold a good long investment to buy every time it dips? No. See, the problem with that strategy is you don't know which time it dips and then it doesn't come back. Meaning you don't know what time it's going to dip and then do nothing for 10 years. And so you could just be in that mindset, well, every dip is a good dip, and then it just does nothing for 10 years. And not to say that it won't come back, but then the problem becomes you don't have a chance to compound your money because it's sitting in a gold dip. That ain't coming back. Any thoughts on GRAL? Nice little bull flag here. I mean, I don't really hate it. It's got to get going, though. What is GRAL anyway? What group are they in? Diagnostic and research? Yeah, I mean, I think somebody could be, at least 40 to 70% invested at this point. Depends what you own, right? I, of course, cut my BABA yesterday, so I no longer have this one. But, I've got Uber, Spotify, Netflix, and CrowdStrike. So I've got 4 names. I was trying to add Hood. A while back, I was trying to get NVIDIA 99.5 as a higher low setup. So, I've been trying to get myself, 50, 60, 70% invested already. So, yeah, that's a great question. The key, I think, is you can't be feeling like you've been left behind. And you just have to continue to use progressive exposure on clean setups to get yourself involved. That's the key. You can't just be like, oh, man, I've got no exposure, and then just go piling in on the wrong day on the next thing you see. You have to keep taking clean setups with good earnings and sales and leading groups and managing your risk from every time you buy a new position. No, I closed the last of my Palantir on a nasty gap down. I mean, in hindsight's 2020, I would have held it, but then my thought was this could have gone to the 20-day, which was like at 102.5, and I was in like 99, 89. So, just watching it go down to 102 felt really wrong to me. And my last cuts on Palantir came like, I want to say $110 or something like that. I could look. So I had sells at 112.78, 115.87, 115.54, and 110.26. So, all from a 99.89 average. So it wasn't a terrible trade. Obviously, I didn't nail any of my sells near the top, but still a super profitable trade. I just cut it, and it's not like it's way higher than where I cut it. So if I have to get back into this thing, I can get back into it, pretty easy. Spot not having good earnings and sales, but still rising. Let's take a peek at Spotify's earnings and sales. Earnings and sales are fine. They're not accelerating as fast, but their earnings are awesome. Last quarter, the earnings were accelerating like 300%, 500%. Now it's like 70%. So Spotify's earnings are not bad at all. Maybe not the best, but not bad. But I did buy this thing yesterday. 641 and 653 were my two buy spots on Spotify yesterday. So about the time that I'm in it. And would I be adding now on Spotify or on Palantir? Thoughts on TEM, Tempest? I liked the comeback yesterday. I like that this thing, ripped, dumped, came right back, and, they're just buying this thing. So, I don't know. Do I think this is one of the 10 best stocks in the market? I don't think so. But they've got an interesting story. And most importantly, they got Nancy Pelosi. Would I be adding now on anything? Yeah, I mean, it depends what you want to add, man. Like if Hood could find itself over 5130 and holding on well, I like that. If Tesla can get and stay over the 200 simple moving average, I like that. 292 roughly. So there are definitely names that I could add. The question is, what do you have a setup that you understand, right? Like, don't just buy anything blindly, right? Focus on stocks in the top 25, 30, 40 groups. Remember, there's 160 plus groups in the market. So narrow your focus to the top 25% groups in the market, like narrow that focus. Then say to yourself, in those stocks within the top 40 groups, what have the best technical setups, right? Which has the group or two that has the best technical setups, like a high type flag, or they're all experiencing earnings gap ups. And then if you've got like a group that's all experiencing earnings gap ups, focus on those, because that's a setup that you would understand, buying like a 5-minute opening range break on an earnings gap up, or then focus on a high volume close if they're all sticking from an earnings gap up, right? Like there are names that are acting really, really well. Like how do I know for your account, Dave isn't a great one, right? I mean, this thing's gapping all-time highs, maybe a little crazy with the gap, but this thing's a fucking monster, right? And earnings and sales were clearly pretty damn good. I mean, what a move, man. This is why you wait for stocks to get above the 200, right? Gets above the 200 and finally just starts an insane uptrend. This is why you don't need to be in stocks below the 200. But yeah, it depends the setup that you understand. Is it an earnings gap up and you're buying a 5-minute opening range break? Is it waiting for a high volume close? Is it waiting for a high type flag? Yeah, Hims is acting pretty damn awesome with the volume. Just think, for me, I mean, obviously for me, I can't buy this, right? I mean, it's up like almost 100% in 8 days. So there's no setup there. Would need a lot of sideways for me to buy, or pull back into ascending moving averages, but I can't buy something up 100%. But thank you, Ben, for stating the obvious. But yeah, I can't actually buy it myself. Nice to see though. just more merchandise that we can work with. I thought at $38 it was great. I thought at $38 over this little neckline looked really good. And it was gone. Yeah, I didn't realize Bitcoin was being shorted on the way up. Bitcoin being shorted on the way up just means that it's probably going higher. That's probably what it means. Yeah, there's a lot of things to do in this market, right? If Baba gaps back over the 50, that's buyable. You know, Amazon's got a little neckline at 193. You know, that looked a lot like Nvidia the day prior, right? Like you look at Nvidia and exclude yesterday, and you would say, oh, okay, it had that Wednesday high, it had a nice little horizontal pivot, it was above the 50, right? It had a few days of consolidation, and then boom, got over, and then obviously gapping up tonight, you know, 118, 120. All right, fine. And then you look at Amazon and you go, that's the same damn setup, effectively. Now, you're going to need a few of these names in the mega cap space to really drive the market higher. So, you know, we'll see. What do I think about DocuSign? I think one day they go out of business and they have to use DocuSign to sign the bankruptcy paperwork. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, pretty good action. I mean, down here, this thing was just beautiful as it was finding support on the rising 200. Got nice and tight. Yeah, I mean, I love this little bull flag consolidation. Needs to get going. Does this have earnings soon? Kind of seems like it does, doesn't it? When's earnings on DocuSign? Do you know? At what point do I feel confident and start to increase your exposure? It's not I start to increase my exposure based on the amount of setups, right? So if I see a setup, a technical setup that I understand and I like, I take it. And then if I see another technical set and I'm gaining traction on the one that I just bought, and then if I'm gaining traction on another setup that I just bought, I take it. And I do that and I do that and I do that over and over and over. And then before I know it, I'm fully invested. So I don't necessarily just increase my size for one position. I increase the amount of exposure I have to the market based on the traction that I've got on prior positions. Like I don't just go plowing into the market or start taking bigger positions. I mean, typically my positions, depending on average daily range, you know, if I'm owning a biotech, it's like a 5% position. If I'm buying a slower tech name like NVIDIA, it's 15%. So it really just depends the stock's average daily range. But I don't ever just go randomly sizing up into anything. Would I show an example of something in the small and mid cap space that fits my profile above the? I'm confused, Mac. Just scan the market. Anything that's, I mean, look at Rocket Lab. That's like a mid cap, right? Just has to get going. There's Archer. Same deal. I don't know that I necessarily love these, but my favorite's probably Hood. That's a mid cap. It's not a large cap. It's over the 50 and 200. Just has to get over 5130, which it's kind of doing right now. But no, Google can go higher, Trevor. But I'm not playing mean reversions right now. I'm focused on the strongest names in the market. I don't really truly see the sense in doing a mean reversion trade. I mean, I'm just effectively trying to cherry pick a bottom on Google, even though maybe the news was a little overdone. Maybe it was just a little ridiculous, that move, but I'm trying to get myself into what I think, if this is the start of a new uptrend in the market, I'm trying to get myself into the strongest names in the market. Google just wouldn't fit that bill, right? It just wouldn't, unfortunately. Not that I hate Google. I don't hate Google, but they don't really fit the bill. Morning, Steve-O. Yeah, I think today's just could be just, kind of a day where we just gap and grind. Who knows? Yeah, here's the thing, right? It's like you think about Google. Yeah, maybe it was a little overdone, but look at the volume that came into this thing yesterday, right? My guess is that was somebody pretty massive leaving Google, or a handful of people taking an exit. So do they just come back to, like, if you're an institution and you sold 158, 157, 156, 155, 154, when it gets down to 147 on the exact same day, do you go, oh yeah, that's a little overdone, we're going to rebuy it now? No. So it's like the people who just left and closed it, they might be out of the picture for a few weeks or a few months or who knows how long. So that's the problem. They might be out of the picture for a little while. And, at that point, you're just kind of hoping and praying that you've nailed bottom for some reason, or you're like, it's just a mean reversion trade and you're not going to be in it that long anyway, to which I would say that's not something I even care to do because I'm trying to swing trade. No, Praf, you don't have to look that far back. If there's a bunch of overhead supply on a stock from 2 years ago, it likely doesn't matter today because those people are probably out. Think about it just as in terms of if it's above the 200, right? If it's above the 200 and it has a clean technical setup and the group is strengthening, I think I would just focus on that more, to be honest with you. Yeah, I saw this ASST this morning. What the hell's going on there? This thing looks like a normal pop and drop to me. Jesus, look at the volume. Holy shit. What a turd. From 60 cents basically all the way to $5. Oh my goodness. Why can't I get that lucky? You tried the bull mean reversion? Yeah, I mean, you can. I mean, they're real setups, but I'm trying to swing trade the best names in the market right now. I'm trying to get myself positioned in what I think that they might be. What do I think of the flag on AGRI? Terrible. Looks terrible. It's below the 200. What I recommend, is you go and look at DAC and look at AMR and go back a few years and look at what they did after they got above their 200-day. Don't worry about them until they get above their 200-day. I mean, who cares if it looks like a little flag and it's underneath the 200? I mean, who cares? Because you're like, oh, it might be the start of something. Well, if it is, it'll then get above the 200 and then set up again. And then, you can buy it. You don't have to be the first one to buy it. MU for a possible short. These semis are just starting to act a little bit better. I am short already. If this thing kind of starts to reclaim this neckline, $86 basically, I'm not going to hang out in the little last piece of my short much longer. So, I was hoping this thing would reject the 50, which is where it's at right now. So that's kind of still what I'm looking for it to do. I am trimmed. Yeah, AVGO is acting a little bit better. MU starting to turn around. A-Lab was starting to look a little bit better, like it's trying to form a little bottom. NVIDIA is pushing back out above the 50. I saw Marvell with the gap down, but big buying volume came into this thing on the gap down yesterday and now gapping up a little bit more today. Again, they're not really that awesome. TSM, would need to get above the 200, but looking a little bit better. ARM got beaten up on earnings, but, bouncing right back. Not right back, but, it's hanging in there. So, yeah, I mean, they're starting to look a little bit better. So I was actually looking at the Soxel or the SMH as possible long setups. Like, I don't want to own any one of the individual semis, but I thought maybe just owning them as a group and, seeing if I can gain some traction on the group as a whole. This isn't normally something I like doing, right? If there's going to be a mean reversion kind of setup that I would trade, it would be something like this instead. Maybe this thing's, got room, back up into this little area where it fell from, about 70% higher from 24s. Who knows? Yeah, if MU rejects the 50-day, it's a really nice spot to get short because then you're just using that as your guide. Good way to look at it. You don't have to have a ton of risk on that kind of setup. Bitcoin acting pretty damn bullish. Looks like this thing's going back to all-time high, huh? People are shorting Bitcoin on the way up. Don't know that that's the smartest thing to do. All right, guys. I will be back in 23 and a half hours. Thank you guys all for being here. Bunch of you guys here today, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys for the questions, and I will see you guys bright and early in the morning, 7:30 Central. Yeah, James, it's possible. I don't know about MSTR just yet, but I was hoping for a little bit more sideways before it would go, and it's gapping up today, quite a bit. So like $17 higher. Hard to grab, but yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for being here, and I will see you guys in the morning.